Airel's first lesson. I can tell you part of your history from my personal experience. Many billions of years ago I was a member of a large biological laboratory organization in a galaxy far, far away. I was a biological engineer working with a large team of technicians. Our job was to produce and deliver new life forms to uninhabited planets. There were millions of star systems with millions of habitable planets in the time period. In addition to us, there were many other biological laboratory companies, each specializing in the production of different types of life forms, depending on the class of the inhabited planet. Over a long time, these laboratories developed a huge catalog of species across the galaxies. Most of the material of the basic genetics is common to all life forms, therefore, most of their work has been to manipulate changes in the basic genetic pattern and produce variations of life forms to suit stars of different planetary classes. My company Arcadia for Regeneration specializes in mammals for forested areas and birds for tropical areas. Our marketing team has negotiated with various planetary governments and independent buyers from all over the universe. Our technicians created animals that matched the variations in climate, atmospheric and terrestrial density, and chemical content. In addition, we were paid for combining our samples with biological organisms that had already been engineered by other companies and that were already living on the intended planet. As you can imagine, our research was very demanding and required interstellar travel to perform planetary surveys. This was also the time when I trained to be a pilot. The data we collected was accumulated in huge computerized databases along with artistic designs and renderings for new creatures. Other life forms were created to meet customer requests for our customers. The design and technical specifications were transferred to the production line through the control of engineers whose job was to connect all the components together for functional performance in a finished and aesthetic product. The product is tested in an environment artificially matched to the target planet. The deficiencies were addressed, changes were made, and eventually, the new life form was given the life force or spiritual energy before being introduced into its actual planetary environment. At the target star, we tested the interaction of the product with biological organisms and the possibility of conflicts arising from the interaction between incompatible organisms. In some cases, changes were made to the planet's environment, but not often, since changes to the planet's environment are much more complex than making changes to any product. A friend and engineer with whom I worked at the Arcadia company long after I left the company told me that one of the projects they had recently carried out was to provide life forms to Earth. Renew the Earth after a war that destroyed most of the life on the planets in this area of space. That was about 70 million years ago. Enormous skill is required to transform Earth into an ecologically interactive environment that will support billions of diverse species. It was a huge task. Consultants specializing in biotechnology were brought in to help the project from across the galaxy. What you see here and now on Earth is a small part of the enormous diversity of life that has been created. All life created on this planet and every other planet in the universe was created by societies like ours. The source of the spiritual animation of every animal and plant is not the work of God, but ours. Species do not evolve by mistake, or randomly in order to reverse into another species, as the textbooks of Earth state, without manipulation of the genetic material. The greatest technical challenge of biological organisms was self-renewal. It was invented as a solution to the problem of having to constantly produce replacements for creatures that were destroyed or eaten by other creatures. Planetary governments did not want to continue buying replacement animals. The idea was created after a conference that was held to solve problems of conflicting interests in the field of biotechnology. An agreement was reached after certain members of the conference were bribed or murdered. This agreement resulted in the biological phenomenon that you now call the food chain. The idea is for one creature to consume the body of another life form as a source of energy. This was the solution of one of the largest bioengineering companies. They used to specialize in creating insects and plants. The company name roughly translated into English was Bugs and Blossoms. They hired a PR firm and a powerful group of politicians and lobbyists for the food chain idea.